Welcome to Midnight Menu Plus One. I'm Ray Canada.
And I'm Margot Moss. Midnight Menu Plus One is a food lifestyle show on the podcast network. It's neworleans.com.
We've got a great show lined up for tonight, and if you're hungry for more Midnight Menu Plus One that we can dish out in the next 45 minutes, we have all kinds of extra stuff, like recipes, guest gossip, sneak peeks into who's coming up next week, and much more on our website, it's neworleans.com. And while you're there, you can check out our blog or sign up for our newsletter. You can follow us on all kinds of time-sucking social media. You can get all this info on itsneworleans.com or just Google Midnight Menu Plus One.
Tonight's show is brought to us by our friends at Petite Pet Care, dog walking and pet sitting, loving care when you're not there. You can find out all about Petite Pet Care at their website, petitepetcare.com, or call them up at 504-300-9PET. Thanks also to Monkey Hill Bar on Magazine Street. Check out their happy hour Wednesdays from 3 to 8 p.m., $3.50 wells, and $1 off beer, wine, and signature cocktails. Be sure to tell them Ray and Margot sent you.
Now, each week on Midnight Menu Plus One, Margot and I invite a member of New Orleans restaurant and food community to join us, and we invite them to bring along a friend, a plus one. We never know who their plus one's going to be. Sometimes it's a friend, a neighbor, a family member, or a fellow restaurant business colleague. And our special guest tonight, Margot, and Midnight Menu Plus One, is very mysterious. She's a woman of a lot of different talents and interests, and I cannot wait to talk to her. But before we do that, I want to tell you about, I went to one of your favorite places. I broke one of my rules today.
You left Orleans Parish?
I left Orleans Parish and actually ate. I've only done this maybe a dozen times in 8 years. But, I mean, I leave Orleans Parish once in a while, but then I usually, skip the meal until I get back because I feel like it's disloyal. And spending my money outside Orleans Parish bothers me. I know I'm crazy on this stuff. I don't expect anybody else to go along with this. But I went to a place that you've recommended before that I love Faux Bang in Gretna. That place is amazing, but also Faux Tabé is terrific. You gush about that. And so we went there, Kathy and I did, and had just this amazing beef stew. It was spicy and just had really complex flavor. It was just great for this casual divey place. It looks like a warehouse outside, as you know. And I was really glad I went there. I didn't feel guilty at all about spending my money outside Orleans Parish. I may wake up in the middle of the night with sweating, realizing that that God's going to call me accountable for this.
I think you're going to sleep better
okay?
because you're going outside your comfort zone, and I'm glad you had a great experience.
Yeah, it was a very, very good experience, and inexpensive too. You can go there and both of us can just eat till we're stuffed for $20, including tax and tip. It was just fantastic. So
well, there's a little rumor about their restaurant. I could be.
Are we allowed to say rumors on the air?
I'll just say
alleged.
I
Use
heard
the word alleged
allegedly
several times.
they are opening up back on Tulane Avenue.
Wow.
I hope I'm not saying anything that is.
Well, if that were true,
yes,
then I could enjoy this food and not feel guilty about my purchase at the same time.
Absolutely. I hope the rumor is true because 10 years ago they had a restaurant across from the medical center on Tulane Avenue, and it was, just as great as.
Well, that place is growing so much over there. I wouldn't be surprised. That'd be awesome. So. And they don't need a fancy space. I mean, they're using a really plain space. It's all about the food, really. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's great. Well, let's introduce our guest. I cannot wait to speak to her. Our special guest tonight is Midori Tajiri Bird of Nola Voodoo Cakes. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
I don't know how to introduce you. I was trying to think of how to do it, but your resume is too long. You do too many different things. So why don't you tell us the thing that you're that's most food related that you do, and then we'll get into some of the others.
Okay. So to be most food related, I think. My name is Midori Tajiri Bird of Nola Voodoo Cakes, and that's why I'm here today with you all. I guess mainly I am an artist, so that kind of manifests itself in a lot of different ways, and in this instance, in food related. So in addition to that, I also do custom hats. I'm a makeup artist in town, and I do a lot of the parade culture activities as well.
Wow.
But as an artist, in terms of food, one of the things I love about creating food is that as an art, it's something that gets to touch all the senses. So it's something that you get to experience on every sense, taste, smell, touch, visual, even emotional and psychological. It affects you. And particularly because I specialize in baking, baking to me is the most celebratory to me of all of the foods. It's special occasion. It's very nurturing.
Well, you got to slow down. You've had about 40 different
No.
things that we could spend an hour on right there. Okay, so how does it touch people psychologically, what you do?
Baking in particular, I think, because it's usually a special occasion food or it's something, it's a treat. It's something that I think is more nurturing to me than other types of food, and it's more artistic. So visually, I can do more with it. I like to specialize in custom cakes, but I like to be able to make sure that everything I do not only really tastes good, but delivers visually in every sense of the word as well.
Oh, give us an example of that. What's something you're really visually proud of that you recently baked?
There's some examples on the website and on my Facebook at NolaVoodooCakes.com that I did some sculptural cakes for friends. As a dog lover, I did some recent dog cakes and pup cakes, so sculpting people's beloved pets.
So it's not a generic
And
pet; it's sort of a likeness of their pet.
Likeness of their exact
Right.
pet. I did a beautiful champagne bottle cake for a friend of mine for a birthday. I did my own birthday cake a while back, which was a corset cake, so it was a little burlesque cake in the shape of a corset. Just fun
Now, why
things.
did you make your own cake corset? Do you dance?
I've been involved in different dance things in town as well as parade culture. I think that one was, I like to do theme parties for myself and for other people, and so that was a Moulin Rouge party, so it was a little bit of a can cake.
So you made your own cake for your own birthday.
Of course.
Wow.
Of course.
Well, yeah, because nobody
Made
could do
my
it
own
better,
wedding
huh?
cake. I mean,
You made your own wedding
made
cake?
my own wedding cake.
I've never met anyone who's made their own wedding cake.
It was insane, but I did, yeah.
Wow.
And are you just so thrilled how it turned out? What did it look like?
I would say as an artist, I have this thing that no matter how much I'd work on something, I always think, gosh, I could have done more. And I might have been like awake for like 48 hours working on a piece and getting really detailed, and then even when I'm done, I still look at it and think, gosh, I could have done more. But truthfully, when you step away from your work, I'm still really happy with it.
Well, describe it for us. Was it big?
It was based on, actually, it's interesting. It was based on a bird theme. So my husband's last name is Bird. So we've been doing a lot of bird and bird cage themes. And I wanted to make a bird cage cake. And the cage that I made ended up not being on the cake, but it ended up being part of a hat the following year. So one of the parades I'm in is the St. Catherine's Day parade,
Oh, sure.
which with the hats. And so I ended up making a hat out of the cage that was going to be on my cake. So, yeah.
Wow.
Now,
Very
so Bird is your husband's last
Yep.
name, and you've kept your last name.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us your family history? Because it's an unusual.
Sure. It's an unusual name even for being Japanese, I think. It's not a common Japanese name, but my Japanese family is samurai. So it's a little uncommon because of that. When we married, I wanted to keep some of that with me as well. But he also has a great name, and
yes.
I'm happy to be married
So
to
you
him.
celebrated
Yeah.
the joining of two families and did the cake in his honor of his name. That's sweet.
Yeah.
Now, were your parents from Japan, or your grandparents from Japan?
No, my mom is born in I'm originally from Chicago, and my mom is born in Chicago. My family came here near the end of the 1800s. They were one of the last feudal families in the samurai lineage, and during World War II, my grandparents and his brothers both fought for America. But then some of them decided to expatriate overseas, so half of my family is American and half of them are Dutch. But they're
Dutch?
all Japanese, American or European, yeah.
Wait, so they left America to go to Holland?
Well, that particular side of my family, when he was stationed in Italy, when he left the armed services and stayed in Europe, and then he ended up working with Leger and a bunch of different artists overseas, and they're all
Have you been to
artists.
Japan?
I haven't, because my family's in Holland, so I go there to see them. But
Ah.
yeah.
Your family history, have you, and being an artist, have you ever represented that in a cake or any of the other art forms that you do? Do you feel that there's
I think it definitely comes out in artwork, even sometimes when you don't expect it to. It definitely is something that culturally leaks out into things. I think that I have a little bit of the Asian overachiever obsessiveness, and that I need
Your
to be
Tiger
doing-
Baker.
Exactly. I need to be doing all of the things all of the time and producing. Otherwise, I have guilt over not producing more. So there's that. But in terms of the nature of the work, I probably do more cultural work in actual artwork than in other things. Although, kind of funny story, but when in college, one of our art pieces I did with a girlfriend who's also half Japanese, we did a series about American food and Japanese food, wherein and it's going to sound disgusting, and it really was, but we made sushi out of all Americana type of foods.
Like hamburgers and
We made sushi, we peanut butter and jelly, we made
peanut butter and jelly
You
sushi.
know,
That sounds
Rice
awful.
Brilliant.
crispy stuff.
Well, I think that is
It was also because she was part Hawaiian, and Hawaiian culture does use a lot of them, because they use Spam and different things. So it was kind of building off of that they had, the way that Hawaiian culture has incorporated American food into Japanese culture. So it was building on that as an art piece, and it probably didn't taste great, and it looked weird, but it was college.
Yeah,
Yes.
and the concept, I mean, it's nice. You do something that means something to you. You weren't just doing a project to...
And where'd you go to school? Where was this?
I went to it's the School of the Art Institute in Chicago, which
yeah.
it's not part of the Art Institute. It's the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. And one thing I will say about the kind of artwork and the students who were my peers who kind of came out of that time is that there's a lot of conceptual artwork that came out of that time period, particularly from that school and in the Midwest. So in that sense, there was more to the meaning behind your work than necessarily what you saw visually. So even though I was a visual artist, and I still am, making sure that there was meaning behind what you did was sometimes as important, if not more, than what we were doing.
Interesting. So moving, like in food and being an artist with food, obviously the process is important, and the visual and the end result. So was it easy for you to transition from conceptual to, did you always have that in you?
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm getting it
I
out.
would say that, as a process, more people in my family are artists than are not, probably, in my immediate
Really?
family. People that I know, they're all photographers or filmmakers or sculptors or in the arts of some kind, writers and such. So I grew up in an environment where that's the norm, to be producing artwork. And more than anyone else, I think a lot of people's families, they feel like, they're more interested in what your grades are, or if you're going to be a doctor. And no matter what I achieve in life, I do feel like my family is more concerned with, well, what kind of artwork are you doing right now? What are you producing? And that's more important. So growing up in that environment, it's almost second nature that I'd be doing artwork, and less of a challenge because it's always there. So taking on doing something like food, I really started as a kid because, and this is kind of what the sentimentality and the psychological side comes in, is that our best friend neighbors across the street were like the most idyllic Norman Rockwell perfect family to me. The father was from the South, and he played ragtime piano. It was a big, big Southern, white family. He looked like Santa Claus. The mom was a baker, and she did work in one of the more well-known, really nice bakeries in Chicago, and did really beautiful pastries. But she was also a home Southern cook, and going over their house, there was just always mountains of food and music all the time, and it was the most beautiful environment. So that I thought to myself, well, that's what I want to do when I grow up. So everything she was doing, I'm super interested in. She'd be the kind of person who would drop off a bag of croissants for you in the morning, like, oh, I just happened to make these this morning, here's some croissants for you. It was just magical. So that was something to me that was really impressive. So I began as a kid working with food, mainly baking, probably because of that, and doing as much as I could, teaching myself or learning on the job and helping people to be able to learn that. So that kind of came almost before coming to my own as an artist, I would say.
So
Food
when
came
did you come to New Orleans? How'd you get here?
I've been here for a little over 3 years, and when I first came, I was thinking, I thought, gosh, this is probably one of the questions they're going to ask me. Is like, people always ask you when you move here and why. And it's kind of a corny story, but it's a true story, so I'll tell you.
Did it involve a unicorn?
It probably involves unicorns.
Oh, good. Okay.
So one of the things that I like about New Orleans is that it's described as the most like being in another country without leaving this country.
Definitely.
And when I was looking for a new place to move, all the places that I had lived in before, I didn't necessarily feel like I wanted to live in again. I was like, I really needed something new. And I'd been in Chicago for a while, and while I totally love my hometown, sometimes you need something new. So I'd been reading my sister's book club book, which was Eat, Pray, Love. And I know it's super dorky to say, but I was reading it because I needed to read something on the bus. And there's a chapter in it where she talks about how in order to be happy, your word that describes you needs to match your environment. So it's not just traveling and enjoying places, but to really be happy living in an environment, you have to match it. Your description of yourself should really match where you're from. And she felt she no longer matched where she was from. And I thought, gosh, that's how I feel. I love Chicago, but I no longer feel like I match this place. And where would I match? And so I thought, well, first I have to think of what is my word. And my word I chose for myself was celebrate. And not necessarily partying up, but that I like to celebrate people and food and stuff. And if you like something, you want everyone to take a bite of it. You want everyone to try this thing on or do these things, and you want to celebrate. If you love someone, you want, hey, everyone, look at this great person that I love. And I thought that's really essential to my personality, is that I want to share the joy of things and celebrate things. And I thought, well, where in the world would match the word celebrate? And immediately New Orleans. So
Wow.
that was it. So it was within 3 days, and I
Well,
packed
that
up
is a
everything and
fitting. I
moved
think
down.
that's a fitting introduction for your +1, because I don't know who he is, but I see he's got food to
Yay!
celebrate. So let's celebrate together with what he has, and he'll explain to
while
us, I
you're
guess,
inter-
why he's here and what he has for us.
All right.
Who are you?
I am Matthew Ratcliffe. Yes, owner, founder, and proprietor of Kristen Cookery. So, yes, that actually is a smoked brisket. It's little individual portions of some things we do on our office catering menu. Wow. There's caramelized red onions, aioli, Swiss, and Melaton pickles on there.
Ooh.
So we do catering trays for this, for office buildings, or for little luncheons all the time.
Wow. This is really good. Now, how do you know Midori?
Well, we just met.
Couple weeks ago,
Yeah, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I decided it was time to really branch out and try and expand the catering business that I do. And I just put an ad out looking for a pastry chef. I interviewed a couple of people, and she just blew everybody away. And yeah.
Wait, so she is your pastry chef now, too?
Well, I mean, she has her own business. I'm
Right,
sure
right.
she does Nola Voodoo Cakes, and we just kind of work together, pulling our resources, whether it be in advertising, marketing. It gives us, whenever she meets a potential client that wants desserts for a wedding or something, she can suggest a caterer. By the same token, if I have a catering, a lot of times in the past I've had people say, well, do you do cakes, desserts? In the past, I've had to bring somebody on maybe to help me for that one party, but now with Midori around, I have somebody that's really skilled that I can offer that as a service, onto the business I already have.
So y'all can celebrate each other's talents
There you
and
go.
work well together.
go.
There you go. It's been great. It's been great so far, and it's already paid dividends. We've already a lot of people have seen some of the things we put together and some of the things that she offers, and they brought us on already. So it's starting to
Wow.
work.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, we met through a mutual friend, and that was the other thing I was going to say I love about New Orleans, is that every time you meet a new person, you realize you already know them.
Right.
You're no more than 2 or 3 degrees of separation
Exactly.
from anyone in the city.
Everybody
so-
says, "Oh, it's a small city." It's like, no. I mean, the population here is higher than the county I came from, New Jersey. I never ran into anybody I ever knew ever. In
Well,
my
it's
10
because
years
people
there.
are friendly here.
Because people there are working and they just go into their living rooms at night and just want to be left alone. And here, people have so many friends. I mean, Midori and I were talking before, right before, and realized that we got 20, 30 friends in common. I can't believe you only lived here 3 years, and you know so many people. And you're involved in so
I
many
do a lot of
things.
stuff.
And-
But
yeah.
that's the thing, too, is that it's regardless of the amount of people you know, we do more here. We get out more,
Right.
we do more, we experience more, so people are interacting more as well.
Right. And, it's just since we've gotten to know each other and we've been working together, I've just kind of mentioned that to some, oh, yeah, I know her. I talked to 5 or 6 people that know her, and, I'm sure vice versa. We bump into a lot of the same people. So it's that kind of town.
Now, I have a question about Midori. I heard you mention parade culture, and I'd like to know how you have worked and what you've done in and what that means with parade culture.
Parade culture, I guess the term I'm using is kind of the year-round culture of not just Mardi Gras of the additional parades throughout the year, but also the kind of culture that we live in, that people will be up for a second line at the drop of a hat, or that people would have a second line for something that's not just celebratory, but it might be a memorial for someone who's passed away, or because it's somebody's birthday, or for any reason at all. It's the celebratory culture that that people feel like celebrating, and not only celebrating, but getting out in the streets with music and an outfit. And that the average person and grandma down the street, she probably also has her Saints tutu and her wig that she'll throw on, and glitter in her house. So it's that kind of culture that's a year-round culture of celebration and costuming and music.
Most of the country has a 4th of July parade, maybe, and it annoys about half the town. They're like, traffic, that noise again. And people don't realize, like New Orleans, it's like every day there's a parade somewhere if you look hard enough, and pretty much there's a big civic event every few weeks. So how many, list out for us just quickly all the different sort of formal groups you're in that parade regularly, and then and I'm sure you do twice as much parading as that, but.
When I first moved here, the first group I joined was the Organ Grinders.
Love them.
My main heart right now is Chewbacca's.
Chewbacca's, the intergalactic crew of
yes,
Chewbacca's, right?
Intergalactic crew of Chewbacca's, and it has a million sub crews of more awesome nerdiness, and I'm captain of the crew of Puke. Which
Crew of Puke.
Yes,
I've never heard of that. Have you heard of that?
I've heard of it, and then
it's the Mystic Crew of Puke, and it is
That's not
a
really
sub
appetizing.
crew.
Well, I mean,
You know what?
It's
it's
all-
an acronym.
It's all rainbows and glitter. It's just fine.
This food and this sandwich is so good, I could even eat it through.
Even
Talking
to my
about puke.
yes,
Very
there you
good.
By
go.
the way,
That was my goal. So.
It's spelled PUEWC, and it stands for People for the Inclusion of Unicorn, Elves, and Winebots in Chewbacca's. And I'm the captain this year.
Come on, you just copied. They have that one of those in Dubuque, I know.
Right,
in Iowa,
exactly.
yeah. Come on.
We're an offshoot. And so then this year I extended it to be Puke Farm, which is the name I just said. So it's People for the Inclusion of Unicorns, Elves, and Winebots in Chewbacca's, and fantasy, anime, Lord of the Rings, and magic. So it's
how do you make
You're a
a
freak,
cake
aren't you?
for that? What does that cake look
I
like?
did make a bunch of unicorn stuff this year. We had our kind of kickoff party for Puke at a shop called Kawaii Nola on Magazine, who I super
I've
love.
seen that and I haven't been in.
I love it.
What's it called again?
Kawaii Nola, and it's all kawaii culture, which is Japanese.
Wait, where is this?
On Magazine Street.
Maggie where?
3512 Magazine.
512, okay.
And they have all
Okay,
kinds
so right
like
before Louisiana, one block uptown of Louisiana.
kind of by Delachase-ish.
Yeah. Okay.
They have all kinds of like, mostly Japanese themed Sanrio Tokidoki type of kawaii culture stuff. So we did our unicorn kickoff for our parade crew there for Crew of Puke, and I made a bunch of unicorn themed, decorated cookies and marshmallows and all kind. I made king cakes because it was Mardi Gras, so we made baby king cakes and king cake and stuff. So yeah.
Now, have you participated in the parade culture work-wise or directly by riding or?
You know, I've done not Mardi Gras. Well, I live in the Irish Channel, so
Oh, yeah.
I've different things. I've been in the restaurant business in the city for a long time. That doesn't afford you a lot of free time, so it's hard to commit to something, But at the same time, there's been a lot of people that have said, "Can you jump in be a swan wrangler, for the Daughters of Lear?" And
Oh, you're involved with Daughters of Lear.
yeah. Well,
Oh,
I have been in the past 2 or 3 different years.
love them. Yeah, our
Swan
good friends.
Wranglers.
The
Swan
Asheville
Wrangler.
started.
What-
that.
Basically, you're the guy
Is that a
we're-
euphemism or is that a literal?
I haven't asked. I'll be sure to ask them. Now, basically, your job is to wear a kilt, push back the crowds, and carry the booze for the girls. So,
Okay.
yeah, not a hard
Oh,
job.
that's a sweet way to describe it. A
Yeah.
swan wrangler.
Right, yeah.
Not like a bodyguard in a skirt.
no. Although that would have been fine.
Other cities
carry
are in
the
the
booze for the
news
girls,
about,
yeah.
this year New York has their rival St. Patrick's Parade because they don't like the way the other one's being managed, and that everybody's angry about it. And New Orleans St. Patrick's Parade is just like you hardly hear about it, and then all of a sudden it's there, and it's it's like 6 hours, right?
Well,
5 hours.
Well,
There's
and
two-
we
there's
had
a couple
4
of 'em,
parades.
yeah.
Well,
All right.
between Block Party and the Uptown Parade and the Downtown Parade, you know,
Insane.
it's kind of like Hanukkah, it just lasts forever. You know?
It is like the whole thing, because people, like you're saying too, people think that Mardi Gras is just one day or even a week, but it's more than a month. And all of the Mardi Gras stuff that we've been doing, you know, I started with Joan of Arc at Epiphany, and it really goes on until the end of. I mean, I'm going to do one more for French Quarter Fest, so all of the parades that I've been in, it's kind of been nonstop. So it keeps going.
Now, Midori, just to change subjects, I'm fascinated by the tattoo on your hand. Let's see that.
Oh.
I love ink, but that's unusual. You don't see too many people that have tattoos on the palm of their hands. So what's that all about?
This is my samurai family crest. So it's
Wow.
my Japanese family crest. It's my only tattoo, but it is it's significant. So my great
Okay,
uncle.
so when most people get their only tattoo, it's like something on the back of their, ankle or something, whatever, a small. And
Well,
you
so
decide to
far,
put
but,
your
you know.
only one on your palm of your hand.
So the significance is that
It's my family crest. And my great uncle had both of his palms tattooed, a different kind of a mandala. But when I decided to have a tattoo, I wanted to have the crest, but in the same placement that he had it. So at the same time that I got mine, without knowing it, my cousin got one as well. We both had gotten them on the palm. It was kind of strange.
Come on, same
across
place?
the country. And then since then, several of my female relatives, an aunt, a cousin, another cousin, have gotten them either on the back of the palm or on the wrist or on the foot. So right now, oddly, it's become a female rite of passage thing in the family.
you've started a tradition.
I think
You-
so.
And is the position of its significance in the samurai culture? I mean, is anything to do with the
I don't
hands have to?
think so. I don't know. My great uncle did have his palms tattooed, and it was a slightly different story. He was friends with a woman named Valley Myers, who was a famous cafe dancer in Paris in the 50s, who was super duper eccentric, and she did artwork that she sold to like the Beatles out of the Chelsea Motel, and she tattooed her entire face, but she was using her pen tips to do it. So I think she gave him his tattoos on the palm, and then my aunt in
Maybe he was really good with his hands too.
his daughter, my aunt, does tattoo all by hand in Holland, and she did all of hers as well as her daughter's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any tattoos? I do not see
No, I
anything.
do not. I'm the only person who cooks for a living in New Orleans that does not have
Really?
And
No,
is-
That's
there's
what
a
makes
good
you
reason.
famous,
There's
huh?
actually a really good reason for
you
that.
can't be buried in the Jewish cemetery?
No, I'm not Jewish.
Okay.
actually. No, when I grew up with really bad food allergies, and I was allergic to dye and like food coloring. So no Twinkies, no Jolly Ranchers, no Kool-Aid growing up. I guess that's why I learned how
Oh.
to cook. But you had to cook for yourself.
Interesting.
And that kind of translated probably overprotective parents. No, that's like injecting poison into your veins if you get a tattoo. And
do you think
I
they
just
use
stayed.
that as a
Yeah.
threat, or do you think it's true? Does it go?
And
I mean,
the end justifies the means. It worked. I never got a tattoo. I've thought about one, but I'm kind of glad because if I'd gotten one when I was 18, it would have been something stupid. So,
Yeah.
I distinguish myself. I'm the only chef in New Orleans without a tattoo. So.
They always say, like, wait a year. Like, decide what kind of tattoo you want and then wait a year to get it. And then if you still want to get the same one, then you're okay. But
I'm waiting. I would if something blew me away, I would get it. So I'm waiting for that.
I'm kind of doing that too, like whether or not to get any further, I'm basing it on, would I have wanted this 10 years ago? And then I'll know, like, well, I don't know.
and do you want it 10 years in the future? I mean,
Yeah,
is it
exactly.
something that,
Exactly.
well, that's family, that's significant. And
Yeah.
so we're going to let you, we say it's okay, you
Okay.
get it. We give you permission.
Now, the only
Thank
problem is you
you.
can't go on the lamb now because they can find you. You
Oh.
can't hide that one on the palm
She
of your
could
hands.
she use a
You're playing
samurai
Unless
sword and chop
This
her hand
is
off.
my
Oh, wow.
disguise. Dun, dun, dun.
That's the real reason why you're
I'm
here.
hiding in plain sight.
Well,
Very nice.
I can see this beautiful cake being
Whoa, is this one of your
cut.
cakes, obviously?
This
Whoa.
What is this?
is a chocolate salted caramel cake, and this
Come
is
on.
probably my most requested cake. So the chocolate cake itself is, I'm just passing it around. The chocolate cake itself is a double chocolate with a little bit of coffee in it, and I use a really high level of cocoa powder, so there's a lot of chocolate in that, and I also melt some chocolate into the batter as well.
Oh, wow.
And then I make the salted caramel myself with a little sea
Now, where'd
salt.
you learn how to bake? Did you go to cooking school or?
I didn't. I mean, I went to art school, so mostly self-taught, and then everything else kind of learning on the job over the years.
That is
This
really
is-
good.
And good old trial and error.
Yes. Well, the texture
Thankfully
is
with
lovely.
baking- oh, thank you.
And the flavor. And I honestly, I mean, I try desserts regularly because I really want to be a dessert person, but I don't like sweets.
Oh
so
my
I'm
God.
not going to
Don't
tell you
brag
I
about
like
that,
something.
Margot. I would
well,
love to have that gift.
You know,
This
I'm
is
not a
very
Sweets are
nice
my
person.
downfall. I would
This-
be a triathlete right now, probably, if it wasn't for sweets instead of a fat middle-aged slob. You know, this is really
this
sweets
is
kill me.
balance between savory and sweet.
Thank you.
And that's really hard to me to try a dessert and enjoy it. So
Thank you very
Wow.
much. Yeah, you know,
Great.
interestingly, I'm not a sweets person either, and even when I would eat sweets, I would more like the frosting than the cake because, you know, a lot of times, especially when you do art cakes and sculptural stuff, a lot of times the cake part isn't as flavorful or it's dry. But I've turned myself into a cake person now because I was like, all right, the cakes out there that I didn't like, I'm going to make the ones that I do like. So I wouldn't consider myself a sweets person either, but
all right, let me
Well, I'm
ask
gonna
you
tell
a
you
technical.
when I looked at your web because I've never tried any of your cakes. I'm sorry to interrupt
That's
you.
all right.
When I looked at your web page, I saw these beautiful cakes, and I thought, okay, but it's going to be all it's more form over substance, you know. And then I tasted this. This is like really delicious. If this didn't look, if this looked horrible, it would still be a fantastic cake. That's really. That's got to be a
you very
challenge to make it look really good and also make it taste.
you know,
really
it's
good at the
super
same time.
important to me. And part of what I baked my whole life before I decided to start a business for it. There was an incident that was also a magical moment for me. But it was that I had my nephews when they were very young over for Christmas, and I decided I was going to make them a big gingerbread house, but then it turned into not just a gingerbread house, it's going to be a whole village. So my whole dining room table was taken over by a gingerbread house and trees and a forest, and then I had to have a swimming pool for these little marshmallow penguins, and then I made a whole edible train with carrying all the candy. But the part that was important to me is that when you're a little kid and the holidays are so magical, you don't want to bite into something and find that there's a cardboard structure or that's not really edible or it's held together with pins or that's really glue. I really wanted their experience to be that everything, when you're a kid and you look at that, the magic is that it is all candy or it is all something that you can eat. So it's really important to me that when I make those, that everything is edible. When I do use support structures, I usually try to use something that is also biodegradable. So when we throw it away, it's like there's cardboard and there's different things in there, but everything is reusable. I really don't use any kind of like Rice Krispie treat kind of stuff. It's all usually cake, and every part of it should be edible to me.
Wow.
So that's really important.
Okay, so I know some people it's a cheap computer effect. You can get somebody a photo and they'll print icing. So it's like a printer, it'll print a photo of somebody, and that was cute the first few times, but it's just basically made by a machine. But you're actually you're an artist. You're making these sort of your rendition of folks. So you can get something that looks like your dog, but you could make a cake. If I asked you can I have a cake that looks just like Margot? You could get me a cake that looks like Margot.
Exactly.
Or like a gross one that looks like Grant or something like that, right? You could do that.
Yeah, I mean, when people have come to me with those type of requests, then usually it's something that you'd model out of fondant, or you would paint on the fondant to have a painterly effect. But when people have come to me with those, that's usually like, if you really just want a photo print, you got to go to Costco. Otherwise, it's still gonna be. I'm gonna do that my own way, basically. Yeah.
Okay, this may be a silly question,
I
but
love silly questions.
Anyway, have either of y'all ever, what do you feel about these like food competition shows or like cake competitions? Have either of y'all, if you were asked to do, I don't know what it's called, the cake one, but would you do it, or are you opposed to that?
I'm not opposed to it. I mean, maybe it was a year or two ago, I was approached by one of them, and at the time, I chose not to. And partly it's that, and maybe this also kind of answers your question about my my heritage as opposed to my work. Is that baking to me is a really sort of zen activity. It's a luxury to be not in the kind of stressful kitchen that the average chef is in. I operate under a completely different environment.
Interesting.
And so even though it can be stressful and you're on a deadline, I get to be in a zone that to me is very zen, and which is why I love what I do, because I can really enjoy it. I can de-stress through baking and cooking. And on a lot of the shows, the high stress, I think a lot of people make mistakes and do crazy stuff because they're under a lot of stress and they're in a different kitchen. And so it's not necessarily representational of your work. But do I do crazy things on TV and on the radio and stuff? Sure, I do those all the time. So probably, those kind of things. There's some people filming an upcoming program about parade culture and stuff. So in general, I'll do a lot of crazy things for entertainment purposes.
Okay.
And would I now? Probably I might now. But in general, I would want to avoid something that might be overly stressful.
Okay. And
Now
what
look-
about for you?
With several years, I guess maybe 06, 07, I was approached about that. There were two of us that were cooks. Basically in those days, might be a sous chef at 3 different restaurants. There just weren't enough cooks in town, And there were two of us that worked together.
Where were you working?
Well, I was at Iris when it was on Jeanette Street. When we first opened it.
Yeah, right.
I was sous
Where Boucherie is now.
Yeah, and where Boucherie, and in fact, Nathaniel Zimmett,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
owns Boucherie, was kind of hopped in, was cooking with us
He's
occasionally.
been a guest
there.
on our show. Yeah.
Oh, good guy, very good guy,
Great guy.
But no, he actually, we were both kind of dipped our toes in that, and he went and I think he made it to like the second or third round. But both of us had the same impression of that, is that was a lot more showmanship and a lot less cooking than anything else. Now,
So you actually did it? You went through a...
We kind of went through a little local filter, just kind of submitted some recipes and stood in front of a camera and were asked some questions. I think the very telling thing was that one of the questions actually had to do with cooking or food. There are 20 other questions. How do you work with others? Are you a person that yells on the line? And
they were
So
hoping
they
you
were
were
looking-
psycho, kind of.
Yeah,
they wanted
they're
to
looking for
be
drama.
nuts.
Yeah, I mean, most of the celebrity
Yeah.
show, I mean, the reality shows to me deal with mentally ill people. I mean, it's mostly crazy,
I've
crazy.
worked with
ass
a lot of
people.
those people too.
Right. Fortunately, in New Orleans, though, that's called New Orleanians. That's pretty much everybody's mentally ill. That would
Right.
be here, right?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
and to answer that question directly, if PBS or someone were to put out a cooking show, I would love to do something like that. Right. But if it's on Bravo or Fox, here I am, just Matthew cooking in New Orleans, But still, who am I to pick, But at the same time, if the whole drama thing is not really appealing to me, and
Yeah. So Matthew, when you're not on TV, what restaurants have you worked in? What are some of the places you've worked?
Ooh, well, I'll tell you what, a place I was very proud of for a while was the day Sue at a Cobalt before Katrina, Hotel Monaco, where Luke is now, and the Hilton St. Charles. And, of course, Kempton was the hotel group that owned that. They left town. And after that, this kind of cooked everywhere. I cooked for FEMA for a while. I cooked, I wasn't there at the grand opening of Iris, but I was there pretty much a week or two after that opened that. And truthfully,
Did you know Jeffrey Fauché there? Did you know him?
Fauché.
He might have been a little bit
Sounds
after your time.
familiar.
Yeah, go ahead.
No.
Keep going.
But no, that's honestly Ian Schneblin. I
Yeah.
learned more about cooking from that guy than anyone else.
One of
Love
the
that
greatest
guy.
guys on the planet, yeah.
Lori and him both. But no, I worked for him for a while. After that, I kind of assisted with just like an extra hand with opening up 7 on Fulton Riverfront
Yeah.
Hotel. Again, that was kind of an all hands on deck kind of a thing. But
Great eggs there. I like the breakfast they had.
it was
there,
a
yeah.
great experience, just especially in that environment, with the way things were then. Just opening up a restaurant, it's stressful enough doing it from scratch anyway. But then in the circumstances of being 2006 in this city, our lead line cook was a Baptist minister, 50-year-old man who had not cooked since the Army in the 70s. But he was the only cook we had, and half the time we didn't
So you
have a
just ate it like
dishwasher.
MRIs then?
It was pretty much everybody did everything all the time. It was a learning experience, that's for
I'm
sure.
picturing like Mr. Costanza right now, remember that's those scenes from Korea?
Very nice
was a
man.
cook, yeah.
He was essential with getting that place off the ground. But,
Cool.
Well, Midori, have you ever worked in a restaurant setting? Have you ever...
I worked briefly with the folks at Revista on magazine.
okay.
Love them. Yeah, they've been on
Yeah.
the show too. Yeah.
Really, really nice. Yeah. Those are the only New Orleans folks that I've worked with here. But other than that, mainly as from a catering aspect, so all special orders. So again, that's why I've been able to avoid the stress of the regular kitchen atmosphere.
Now, have you ever cooked a cake that was too beautiful to eat? Like at the end of it, you just looked at it and said, "I can't mess this up. We gotta, spray this with something to glaze it and, keep it as a art piece."
There's always that momentary part of certain creations where you want to just kind of sit back and absorb that. But I think that's also part of what we're talking about with the artwork that I create, the conceptual things that I would make in college, is that I like making things that have a specific lifetime. And if you look at something like food or baking, it's kind of like appreciating flour, that you almost force yourself to really appreciate everything and absorb as much as you can, because in every moment that you look at it, it's slowly dying. It's going to change at every moment. So I think you appreciate it more and in a different way than a painting that is always going to be static and be the same way. Being able to make the hats that I've made or something, it's one of the few things that I can make that sits there and it's always going to be the same.
Now, are you the Great Hatsby? Is that
Great
you?
Hatsby, yeah.
Tell us about that. You do
Clever name.
St. Catherine's. I know is great parade. Tell us about
Yeah,
that.
it started out that I've always also done costuming and I do cosplay stuff, which is why I've been in the parade culture. And a few years ago, a friend called me up the night before the St. Catherine's Day parade. I think it might have been 2010, and she was like, "Hey, there's a hat parade tomorrow. You should go." And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "But there's a award for the best hat." I was like, "Well, now I gotta stay up all night and make a fantastic hat." So I did, and I stayed up all night and I made a hat.
Did you win?
I won.
What?
And the
2010.
prize,
That's when you first got here.
So it was my first year here, and the prize was that
Come
you
on.
got to be the Grand Marshal the following year.
Oh my
Holy
gosh!
cow.
So
Wow.
that's why I had to win. So then the next year I got to be the Grand Marshal, and I made another hat, and that's that second hat is the one that I used, the bird cage frame from that was supposed
Yeah.
to be for my wedding cake. I used that for a hat, and then now I'm on the board for St. Catherine's Day parade for the future. So
It seems like in
Yeah.
other cities, like, to be Grand Marshal of Parade, you got to be somebody's granddaughter and da 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 da. And here we have a few crews that are like that, but for the most part, you can show up in town, and 6 months later you're making a hat, you win the contest, and now you're Grand Marshal of the Parade next year. I mean, what a great New Orleans story that is.
Birdcage
we
hat.
know. Well, one thing
And
I
that
will
was the
say
one that was
too,
supposed
like,
to be in the. That was the one that was supposed to
it
be
was
on the
supposed
cake?
to be. Yeah, that was the one that was supposed to be on my wedding cake. It was the cake, the frame
Supposed
I
to be
made
your
for
own
that.
wedding cake. You made
Yeah.
a hat out of it, and you
Yeah.
won.
Yeah.
Now, you've already created like history in New Orleans in 3 years.
A little bit, yeah. Yay.
So you can't leave.
Yay.
Basically, you're a
Well, tell it to my husband now. We're stuck here. But yeah, what I was going to say too about that is that moving here, there's a certain aspect of culture here that is immediately welcoming, and there's a certain aspect of culture that you need to pay your dues. So initially here, I felt very welcomed, and there's a lot of stuff that I could just jump right in, and being that kind of personality, I'll jump right in and do stuff. But I also feel like in order to be taken seriously, there's a process of a few years where I think a lot of people come here for school or for work things, and so they're not going to be here more than a year, 2 years, 3 years. So it really was after that 3-year mark where I felt like residents or long-term locals finally said, "All right, you're not moving away. Well, you're okay. You can stay. You're one of us." And I felt it was the first time that I felt I was really begun to be taken seriously in business and as an artist. So it's beyond, the initial stage is very welcoming and fun, but there's a stage where I think you still need to prove yourself, which coming from Chicago, I never thought, I felt like I paid my dues. But I think you have to, no matter where you are, whether it's music or whatever you've done, you sort of need to repay those dues here.
and people appreciate that, respect that drive.
All right, now's the time for a segment we like to call Off the Menu. These are questions that you would not normally be asked on a cooking school application. Margot, do you have a question for our guest?
Yes, I'll ask you, Matt, first. If you could magically have any other career, what would it be?
Do I have to pick one?
Yes.
Fishing guide and off the coast of Central America somewhere.
Ah,
You've thought about this, obviously.
Every day.
Why?
I've had the opportunity to go to central Mexico and southern Mexico on the West Coast and a lot of different places. Love Latin American culture, love Mexican culture. It's a great country. A lot of people don't unfairly nervous about going to, but just it's a very nice lifestyle. There's a lot of people that live there, especially on the West Coast, that are surfing guides, and teachers. I know I could never do that, but if I could own a little fishing guide and cook the catch and run a cafe, afterwards, I could live out the rest of my days there.
That's
No
kind
doubt
of
about it.
cheating, though, because that's halfway being a cook still. That's yeah.
It's an attainable. I think that's wonderful.
You can keep the
It's a good
cafe part
retirement
then. I'll
plan.
just be the fishing guy. I'll hire a cook. How about that? Yeah.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Okay, and we have one for you, too, Midori. What is one food item that you would bring with you to a deserted island? You just bring one item with you. We're assuming you're not just going to eat that, right? I guess you could eat everything that's local to the island, but you get to bring one with you in addition to that.
Oh, chocolate, absolutely.
Chocolate.
Chocolate. I probably eat chocolate. I mean, I say I don't have a sweet tooth, but I do. Not only do I eat
You're full
chocolate
of
every day,
contradictions, yeah.
but if I know that I'm running low on chocolate in the house, I get that panicky feeling like,
Uh-oh. Maybe there's not enough to last the night. I might wake up and need some chocolate.
So when the Weather Channel 50 times this summer starts saying, "Oh, the hurricane might be coming,"
Yeah.
whatever like that. Oh, look,
you
this
guys
activity.
can stock up
Everybody
on
else is
canned
running to
goods
get water.
and water,
Yeah,
and
you're
I will
running
have
getting
like
chocolate.
all of the chocolate, all of it.
That's smart. Comfort
I
food.
think it is.
Yeah, I mean, it has a lot of different.
Look,
food
I'm gonna
groups in
die
it.
anyway.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
right.
die happy.
Yeah. All right, I like
You're
that
gonna be
answer.
alive and well hydrated, and I will be happily dead in my chocolate coffin.
All right.
Okay, speaking of chocolate coffins,
Beautiful.
I have a question for you, and I don't want to forget
nice
it.
segue.
You have a chocolate coffin question prepared for her? Wow, that was really you've
Well-
prepared.
The name of your cake business is.
Nola Voodoo Cakes.
Now, how did you come up with that?
It was when I moved here, and like the cake that you just had, which is one of my most requested. It's based on a chocolate cake. I was into, and because I like to make things with a theme, I really wanted to make something that was very New Orleans centric, but almost interactive. So what I've been working on in my top secret lab is a voodoo cake it's a voodoo doll, and I'm trying different sizes and different ways to do it, but basically it's a little chocolate cake with a center that is caramel based that you can pierce. So it's a cute little voodoo doll that's delicious. It has
spills out caramel.
and it will, yeah, but tinted caramel, so it feels you can.
It's like blood.
It's like blood.
So
it's
chocolate
cute.
coffins relate.
Okay, wait.
Super
You're still
awesome
working on
segue.
this? You're not done with it yet?
Well, I've tried. You know what? You guys can be
Oh,
my
maybe we should-
lab
maybe
because
we
I'm
should
trying
air this
different
part, 'cause
ones.
We don't want someone else to steal your
And
idea.
the
That's
difference
brilliant.
is, thank you. So the difference is like making things that are more manageable, as opposed to things that are more decorative and bigger. So I'm just trying different ones. But if you want,
It's
I
like
can
an individual sized voodoo
Yeah,
doll,
they'd be more like
the way the gift shop voodoo dolls would be. Yeah.
the smaller ones are more like a little snack cake, and then the larger ones are more like po' boy size. So you guys can be my victims.
Yay!
Wow.
can try
Now,
and
is
you
that
can tell
something
me
you
if you
could
like
wrap
water.
up, you think, and like ship? Maybe you need preservatives. I don't know. Can you like get that, order that online?
Too,
I wonder if other places in the country would appreciate it, though. They might. Well, who cares if they appreciate it?
Who cares?
They'll know it's weird and they'll want
I've
it.
tried some before that I tried wrapping, and I think the conclusion is that most, especially when people ask to ship things and shipping cakes and stuff, most time I would say in general decorated cakes I don't want to ship, except for I will ship the decorative toppings, so that if I make a design or a fondant or decorative piece I can ship those. Decorated cookies ship really, really well.
Okay, let me give you an idea. Our mutual friend Erica Avila is the most creative person I've ever met in my life, and she has a voodoo doll she sets up for each football team during Saints season.
Oh, yeah, I've seen
yeah,
it.
right. And she puts them. Have you seen those? She puts them on
Yeah.
her mantle, and so like when it's Broncos, she makes a Bronco voodoo doll. She dresses like a Bronco, and she sticks a sword through it or whatever, and hangs it or whatever she does with it. You could do that. That would be a marketing thing. Like
So-
you could send voodoo dolls of things that people don't like the
That was my
opposing
idea,
team.
is that either as a celebratory cute thing or as another thing. Like, you could order one because you just quit your job and put your old boss's name on it. You could have, you know how they make divorce cakes? They have divorce cakes. You could have one that someone you don't like, or you could have something that you do like. It could be a love spell, and you put your, sweetheart's name on it, and you do something sweet to it.
Oh, the social media
So,
potential. This is
positive
like
and negative.
fantastic. You sell one of these, it's really creative, and then it goes viral because everybody's putting a picture on Facebook or whatever. That's great.
But customizable as well, so yeah.
Yes. Gosh, you're a genius.
Well, unfortunately,
Are we out of time?
the evening, the stars are coming out in the ceiling of Grill by the Hill here. And so before we
She's not
go,
kidding.
can we have both of y'all tell everyone how they can get in touch with you and purchase an extraordinary cake and have you cater their event?
Yeah, absolutely. You can reach either of us if you would like to cater your event through crescentcookery.com, and Matthew will give you the phone number for that. You can go to my Facebook or domain name of NolaVoodooCakes.com and contact about custom work, or you can go right through Crescent Cookery and order everything you need. What's the phone number?
Multifaceted. Yeah, that's basically.
Can you give them the phone number?
Oh yeah, that's 504-224-0219.
Say it again.
504-224-0219. And that's crescentcookery.com. Again, Facebook page. Feel free to like me on there to get updates about some different specials we're running. And you can, if you're just interested in cakes or pastries, you can go through either one of us and you can get both of us. So
Nice.
if you want a catering with savory and sweet, just
Synergy.
contact one of us.
Our special guest tonight was Midori Tajeri Bird of Nola Voodoo Cakes, and her plus one was Matthew Radcliffe. Thank you so much for joining us. Good night.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Midnight Menu Plus One is produced by Grant Morris, and Chris Keogh is our technical director. And this fabulous audio quality that you hear is by PreSonus Audio Electronics. Makes all kinds of wonderful things. Visit PreSonus.com for more information. You can get in touch with us here at Midnight Menu Plus One by going to our website. It's NewOrleans.com, and from there you can follow us on Twitter, find us on Facebook, sign up for our mailing list, get all kinds of swag. And while you're at It'sNewOrleans.com, you can listen to other episodes of Midnight Menu Plus One and our other shows, Happy Hour, Mindset, True to the Game, Viet Nola, Out to Lunch, and others. And if you're listening to the show on iTunes, please rate us and review us. It helps other people to find us. Midnight Menu Plus One is a production of INO Broadcasting for It'sNewOrleans.com. So we meet here again. I am Ray Kanata.
And I'm Margot Moss. Thanks.
You know Labor Day signals the unofficial end of summer, but not the end of your outdoor projects. Lowe's helps you do it right and helps you save with Labor Day deals throughout the store. Shop now and get 2 bags of Stay Green potting mix for $12. And keep your lawn looking neat and trim with a Craftsman 2-cycle 17-inch gas string trimmer, now $20 off at just $119. Whatever's still on your to-do list this Labor Day, do it right for less. Start with Lowe's. Offers valid through 8/28. Soil offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii, U.S. only.